The world is falling apart, and that's a good thing. First things first, the world is not falling apart. Your world might be falling apart, or your perception of the world, I should say. That's a good thing, so congratulations. And in this video, we'll go about mainly two things. Number one, why is it falling apart? And number two, why that is a good thing, because it sounds contradictory, right? So when you watch this, you're probably in your late 20s to late 40s. That's usually the people who watch or listen, read our content. That means you've been there, you've done that, you've traveled the world, you have built your career, you've been through different relationships, most likely. So you've collected something that you might call knowledge or life experience. And you've reached a point of satiation or saturation, kind of like you've tried all those dishes out there, and you've reached a point where you think like, okay, what's next? And whether you like it or not, you have become the average of the people that you surround yourself with, being your family members, your friends, your coworkers, your colleagues, like all those social settings that you expose yourself to builds sort of your identity, and that is who you have become. And in this process, you've become also very, very good at wearing a social mask, adapting to those different settings. So you would, for instance, talk differently when you hang out with your homies compared to talking to your mom, or discussing your raise with your boss in your yearly review or something like that. So at the end of the day, when you look into the mirror before you go to sleep, actually what you see is a Netflix character, your own Netflix character that you have formed over time, that you have become, and you see that character perform day after day after day. So the question I have for you then is, when you have obeyed to all those rules, when you have been such a good citizen, like getting up every morning, going to work, paying your bills, all that kind of stuff, being a good human, decent human being, why do you still feel empty? Why do you still feel not fulfilled? Why do you still feel that something inside you is missing? And the answer to this question is exactly the question itself, because you have done what is expected of you. And here comes the kicker. You are not other people's expectations. You are you. That brings us to the second part. Why is it a good thing that your world perception or your world is falling apart? Because once you're done with looking on the outside, blaming your boss, switching jobs for the 27th time, moving to a different city, maybe even moving to a different country, going through different relationships, and so on, you get the idea. And you realize nothing really changes. The outside changes, but you still have that feeling deep inside you that something is missing and something is off and something is not right, and you don't really know what it is. You can't really pinpoint it. So you keep on searching. And after you ran through this process and at some point hopefully get tired of it, it's time to make that switch and to look on the inside and go inward. And that is actually a huge, huge opportunity for you to, for the first time, dig deeper, beyond and go beyond all those identities and all the personas in Jungian terminology that you have formed throughout your lifetime, in the 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, your entire lifetime, basically, years of existence. So what you've done to this point is that you suppressed your anima, if you're male, or your animus, if you're female, which stands for your instincts, your fears, your desires, like all the stuff that's really like the meat of your self, like with capital S. And you've developed something called a shadow of your existence, and that comes into place to compensate for all the suppression and oppression that you've given to yourself. And that shadow is nothing bad per se, because if you think of it, you just place an object behind or in a light source, it will throw a shadow. It's a very natural thing. However, when this shadow is in the driver's seat most of the time and is unchecked and is the driving force, that creates a lot of problems, and it can manifest in very impulsive, forceful behavior, very fear-driven, emotional dysregulation, and what you just said, those desires that have not been met, it comes at like the cost of like a huge craving to finally realize those cravings and make those desires come true and fulfill them. As I said, in a very forceful and a very unpleasant way. As a result, obviously, that can cause self-harm. It can cause harm to others. So by now, we've learned the world keeps turning. It's not falling apart. Your perception, however, is shattered and is crumbling. And the third thing is that now you've been given this huge opportunity to look for change, to make change, and to become something or someone else or something different, hopefully your true self. What's the solution to the whole thing? It's called a process, or what you have to go through is a process of individuation. And that comes with bad news and good news. The bad news is you've been conditioned all your life. As I said, 20, 30, 40 years, there is no quick fix. You cannot just flip the switch and everything is fine. You have to work on it. Therefore, it's called a process. The good news is listening to this means that you already understand at least some part of the underlying causes. And that realization, that acceptance is, so to say, the door that opens and the gate to dealing with those problems. So the building blocks, the main two building blocks that you really need, the tools to address this issue, are time and effort. Over time, with effort, with discipline, with staying persistent, with going for it and putting in the work, you will enable yourself to then rewire your brain, get rid of those identities, get rid of those personas that are not really you, and then actually explore who you are and what you are. How you can do this practically, what I suggest is that you start very simple. Have a conversation with yourself. Have a conversation with rather your unconscious self, I should say. And that's where the tool of tea meditation comes in very, very handy. You sit down, you create a safe space for yourself, you get comfortable, take 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, and really sit down, ask yourself very simple questions. What do I need? What is the life that I want to live? Who do I want to be? You get the idea. You can expand, you can iterate, you can, deviate, you can ask the different questions. But the thing is not to look so much on the outside, but really have this conversation with yourself and ask those questions that you might not find the answer to right away, but you get into this process and you have this dialogue and you keep practicing, you form a habit of having this conversation. What's very important is that you're bold, that you allow yourself to dream. It doesn't have to be all rational. At the same time, it needs to be very, very clear. It needs to be very, very specific. So you don't just go, I want to be happy. You need to dig deeper. You need to be more specific. What is it that gives you happiness? Like, what exactly do you want to be, or who do you want to be to then reach that state of happiness? What is it that comes to mind? And you practice this. And this helped me when I started drinking tea around 8 years ago to slowly build this habit and get into this practice. Helped me to transform. That's definitely one of the building blocks that helped me transform from a successful, by society standards, successful but dysfunctional human being to living a much more peaceful, authentic, and meaningful life. I'm still on the way practicing every single day, of course. Like, I'm not perfect, and I'm very sure that it's probably not even possible to really get there, but I've learned to enjoy that journey and to put in the work, and I think that is most important. That's why I'm sharing this with you. If you think this sounds interesting and you want to have more of this kind of content, then just stick around. We will publish more of those videos. Just follow our blog, read our blog, drop us an email if you want. We can have like a one-on-one conversation. And yeah, just stick around. Thank you for watching.